Have you ever felt like you're living in a loop, a repeating pattern of self-sabotage that you can't seem to break, no matter how hard you try? It's that hauntingly familiar feeling. You wake up with a renewed sense of purpose, a divine conviction that today will be different. You make a sacred vow to yourself that you will not give in to the old habits, the distractions, the vices that drain your life force. You feel, for a moment, in complete control of your destiny. But then, as the day unfolds, an invisible current begins to pull you back. The phone in your hand becomes a portal to hours of mindless scrolling. The comfort food you swore off calls to you like a siren's song. The project that holds the key to your growth is pushed aside for later. And by the time night falls, you find yourself exactly where you started, shrouded in a fog of disappointment and guilt, wondering why your conscious intentions are so powerless against this hidden saboteur. You are not alone in this struggle. This is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a lack of intelligence or willpower. It is the echo of a profound cosmic battle being waged in the deepest chambers of your soul, a battle between the forces of life and the allure of nothingness. If you have ever felt this invisible chain around your spirit, if you have ever yearned to understand the source of this self-inflicted pain, then you are in the right place at the right time. This message has found you for a reason. Listen closely, for what you are about to hear may be the key that finally unlocks your cage. Stay with me on this journey, and if these words resonate with the frequency of your own soul, let me know in the comments by typing, "I am ready to break the cycle," and be sure to subscribe. Because this is a path we must walk together. You must understand, you are trapped in an invisible war, a spiritual cycle that feeds on the very essence of your being, your energy, your dreams, your divine vitality. This isn't some fleeting drama or an over-the-top exaggeration. It is the brutal, unspoken reality for countless souls who refuse to see the war raging within. This cycle is a master of disguise, a phantom force that slowly and methodically consumes you, even, and especially, when you believe you are in the driver's seat of your life. Every single day, you awaken and carry within you forces that shape your every decision, every thought, every impulse. These are not forces that ask for your permission. They do not bow to your logic or respect your meticulously laid plans. They are ancient, primordial energies, and they have been a part of your journey long before you became conscious of their influence. You tell yourself, "Today, my life begins anew. Today, I will not sabotage my own happiness. Today, I will seize the reins of my destiny." The intention is pure, the desire is real. But before you can even grasp the fullness of that intention, you find yourself back in the familiar grip of the very behaviors you swore to abandon. You dive headfirst into the same old distractions. You feed the same debilitating vices, and you meticulously avoid the one thing that matters most, your own evolution. This is not a failure of character. This is not a lack of discipline. It is not even a question of motivation. There is something infinitely deeper happening within your sacred architecture, something that the great pioneer of the mind, Sigmund Freud, was one of the first to perceive with brutal, unflinching clarity over a century ago. According to his revolutionary insights, human beings are not driven solely by the desire to live, to grow, and to create. This is only one half of the story. No, within the core of every one of us resides a counterforce, a shadow impulse, as ancient as life itself. He called this force Thanatos, the death drive. Thanatos is not a conscious wish for an end, but a blind primal impulse that seeks dissolution, self-destruction, and a return to the quiet stillness of nothingness. And to make this cosmic drama even more perverse, the human brain, in its infinite complexity, has learned a treacherous trick. It has learned to transform this very act of self-destruction into a fleeting, addictive form of pleasure. Every little act of sabotage, every repetition of a destructive pattern, every choice that you know, deep down in your soul, will ultimately harm you. All of these actions are rewarded by your own hijacked dopamine system. It is your own brain, your own sacred biological instrument, that is reinforcing the very behaviors that are slowly destroying you. You feel a small, momentary relief, a fleeting sensation of pleasure, and so the invisible cycle continues, tightening its grip with each turn. But you do not realize the true nature of this cycle. You cannot see the enemy for what it is, because in our hyper-stimulated modern world, Thanatos does not manifest in obvious, overt ways. It is not a conscious, articulated desire to die. No, it is far more subtle, more insidious than that. It hides behind 1,000 masks, each one more tempting than the last. It masquerades as immediate pleasure. It disguises itself as harmless distraction. It wears the costume of uncontrollable compulsion. It is the procrastination that whispers, "Rest now, do it later." It is the subtle vices that promise a momentary escape. It is the mental anesthetics we use to numb the sting of existence. The endless scrolling on social media, the hollow calories of junk food, the bottomless glass of alcohol, the addictive loop of video games, the drama of toxic relationships, the crushing weight of excessive work. All of this can be happening without you ever consciously realizing it. It is the camouflaged expression of this death drive, an unconscious desire to escape the pressures of being, to destroy the potential you fear, to erase the self you are struggling to become. Have you ever truly felt this? That deep internal resistance that seems to arise from nowhere whenever you try to make a positive change? That silent, seductive voice that whispers in your ear that it's not worth trying, that you're not worthy of success, that it's easier to stay where you are. That is the invisible force of Thanatos, pulling you back to the same point of stagnation, no matter how hard you fight to get out. Please hear me now. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the sound of your own psyche, deeply and profoundly divided. It is a constant, unending battlefield within you, a war between Eros, the divine force of life, of creation, of connection, and Thanatos, the dark, seductive impulse of self-destruction. And this is precisely what we are here to talk about today. No more beating around the bush. I want you to understand, once and for all, why you live trapped in this agonizing cycle, why you keep repeating the same mistakes even when you know they are destroying you, and, most importantly, how you can begin to break these internal chains if you have the divine courage to do so. Stay with me. This video will be a journey into the most hidden and powerful forces of your mind, and perhaps, by the end, you will no longer be the same. The human mind is a field of forces in constant, dynamic conflict. The visionary Sigmund Freud was one of the very first to understand that we are not the cohesive, rational, perfectly adjusted beings we pretend to be. On the contrary, our psyche is the stage of a silent, invisible war, where powerful, antagonistic impulses compete for the direction of our lives. At the very center of this internal battle are two primordial impulses that shape everything we are and everything we do. We are Eros and Thanatos. In Greek mythology, Eros, or Cupid, is the god of love and creation, a vibrant symbol of the life drive that seeks to preserve, to unite, and to generate new life. It is the divine force that compels us to create, to build, to preserve our own being. It is what moves us toward pleasure, connection, and spiritual growth. Every time you seek to learn something new, engage in a creative project, build meaningful relationships, or take care of your body and mind, it is Eros that is at work. It is the energy that pushes us forward, always, toward more life. But symbolically and inseparably, alongside Eros, resides his shadowy twin, Thanatos. The death drive, named after the Greek mythological figure that personifies death, is a dark, hidden force that seeks the exact opposite. Thanatos is the deep-seated desire for destruction, for dissolution, and for a quiet return to the inorganic state of non-existence. Freud proposed that in every living being, there is an unconscious impulse to nullify the tensions of life, to cease the constant, exhausting effort of existing, to regress to the original state of absolute nothingness. It is a profound longing for absolute rest, for the cessation of all struggle, for the absence of pain and desire. In our daily lives, Thanatos does not manifest in a direct, explicit way. It is not a conscious cry of, "I want to die." No, its expression is much more subtle, much more insidious. It infiltrates the small, seemingly insignificant acts of self-sabotage, the destructive behaviors you repeat without ever truly understanding why. It is in the vices that numb but ultimately corrode, in the relationships that weaken you but you can't seem to leave, in the procrastination that undermines your greatest opportunities, and in the fleeting pleasure you seek, even knowing it will bring suffering later. And all of this is reinforced by a brain that, tragically deceived by these immediate stimuli, releases dopamine, creating a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. It is the death drive, masterfully disguised as pleasure. This is the perverse, secret game that happens within you every single day. Do not be fooled. Eros and Thanatos do not exclude each other. They coexist, they dance together, they intertwine in every choice, in every impulse, in every moment of your life. What you feel as pleasure may actually be Thanatos in action. What you avoid as pain may be the life-giving force of Eros trying to emerge. But how can you possibly identify these manifestations in your daily life? How can you learn to perceive when self-destruction is masquerading as pleasure? This is precisely what we will explore in the next part of our journey. We will dive deep into how Thanatos disguises itself in the fabric of the modern world, and how it may be slowly, silently killing you without you ever realizing it. If this content is making profound sense to you, if it's striking a chord deep within your soul, then click the subscribe button and join our community of seekers. Thank you for your support and for being a part of this awakening. In the contemporary world, Thanatos does not appear dressed in the grand robes of tragedy or the explicit finality of death. On the contrary, it hides behind the most attractive and seductive masks imaginable. It does not call to you from the abyss, saying, "Come, destroy yourself." No, it whispers with a sweet, reasonable voice, "Just a little more. You deserve it." It's not a big deal, and you believe it. The everyday life of our modern existence is the perfect, fertile setting for the disguised manifestation of the death drive. We live completely surrounded by stimuli that feed compulsive and self-destructive behaviors, all of which are powerfully reinforced by the brain's own dopamine system. Social media, pornography, junk food, alcohol, rampant consumption, endless series, video games, toxic relationships, all of this can be, and often is, the vehicle of Thanatos acting through you. How many times have you told yourself, "Today I will change. Today I will not repeat that behavior." But by the end of the day, there you are again, trapped in the same cycle, exhausted, empty, guilty. This is not weakness. It is not a lack of character. It is Thanatos, acting through the mental and emotional patterns that you do not even notice. These are the repetitive and destructive behaviors that, even when you are fully aware of the damage they cause, you insist on maintaining. Why? Because there is an unconscious desire to return to a zero state, to the absence of pain, tension, and effort. Living is maintaining psychic tension. It is being in motion, in constant construction and expansion. But a deep part of you longs for the opposite: cessation, apathy, numbness. Every behavior that temporarily anesthetizes you, that makes you escape the pain or anxiety of existence, is a small, quiet triumph of Thanatos. That is why immediate pleasure is so incredibly dangerous. Because the brain, by associating dopamine with these behaviors, reinforces the cycle. Every slip, every repetition, strengthens the neural pathway of self-destruction. It is a perverse and brilliant system. The more you give in to the behavior, the harder it becomes to break free from it. And thus, without realizing it, you are feeding the very thing that is slowly killing you. But the situation is even more complex, more layered than that. Thanatos does not only act in obvious vices, it also manifests in more subtle, socially acceptable forms. Chronic procrastination, the paralyzing fear of exposure, the constant postponement of one's own dreams, maintaining relationships that weaken and drain you. All of these are expressions of a psyche that has been sabotaged by unconscious forces. And here comes the most crucial question of all. How does the brain collaborate with all of this? How does dopamine, this neurotransmitter that should propel us toward life, end up becoming an accomplice of self-destruction? This is what we will explore in the next part. We will uncover the true role of the reward circuit and understand how pleasure can become the deadliest trap of your mind. Now you need to understand what may be the most treacherous and diabolical trap of your mind, the role of dopamine in reinforcing your self-destructive behaviors. And here, it is absolutely necessary to dispel one of the greatest and most popular misconceptions. Dopamine is not the substance of pleasure. It is not just responsible for you to feel good. What dopamine actually does is much more complex and, in this context, much more dangerous. It is the neurotransmitter and hormone that plays several critically important functions in the body, including the regulation of movement, mood, motivation, expectation, and pleasure. In other words, it commands the wanting, not the liking. Every time you engage in a behavior that, at some point in your past, was associated with a reward, no matter how minimal or illusory it may be, your brain registers that association. Dopamine acts by creating a powerful neural circuit that says, repeat this, do it again, now. It doesn't matter if the behavior is actually beneficial or if it is destroying you. If the brain has learned that it brought relief or a momentary flash of pleasure, the circuit is reinforced, and you are driven to seek more and more of that experience, almost automatically. Now, imagine this mechanism, a powerful and ancient tool of evolution which should propel you to seek survival, reproduction, and healthy social connections being hijacked. This is exactly what happens in the modern world. Superpotent, artificial stimuli bombard your brain on a daily basis, creating intense dopaminergic associations with empty or destructive behaviors. Social media, pornography, fast food, alcohol, drugs, consumerism, endless series, digital notifications. All of these stimuli are specifically designed to activate your dopamine circuit and addict you. You open your phone just for a minute, and before you know it, an hour has passed. You eat an ultra-processed food, feel an instant hit of pleasure, and soon find yourself wanting more. You buy something online, feel that brief, fleeting excitement, and shortly after, find yourself looking for something else to buy. Each of these small repetitions reinforces the neural pathway. The more you repeat, the stronger the impulse becomes. You don't want that behavior anymore. You are compelled to it. Your brain has learned that this brings relief. And even if you consciously know that you are sabotaging yourself, your body acts on its own. Now, add to this what Freud revealed about the very nature of the death drive. Thanatos does not act directly. It is not a clear, conscious desire to die, but an unconscious tendency to escape the tension of existence, to dissolve the self, to avoid the pain and effort of life. And what are these compulsive, addictive, and self-destructive behaviors, if not small, incremental steps toward dissolution? Every time you procrastinate, every time you give in to an addiction, every time you seek fleeting relief in a behavior that weakens you, it is Thanatos acting through you, with the powerful help of dopamine. It is your own brain turning against you. Make no mistake. This combination is a perfect, insidious trap. Thanatos creates the unconscious desire to flee, to nullify oneself. Dopamine rewards these escape behaviors. And the more you give in, the stronger the cycle becomes. That is why you return, day after day, to the same compulsions. Why you sabotage yourself, even knowing that it will harm you. It is not rational. It is not a moral failing. It is a deep biological mechanism of the psyche, reinforced by your own neurobiological system. And as frightening as this may seem, there is an even deeper reason why you cannot simply stop. Because at the center of this cycle are unconscious forces. Forces much older and more powerful than your conscious will. They are the ancient structures of your own ego, your superego, and the repressed impulses you have carried with you since childhood. They sabotage your attempts at change. They generate an invisible resistance, and they keep you imprisoned in the cycle. And this is what we are going to explore now. Breaking this cycle is not a simple task. It is not a matter of sheer willpower. It is not about thinking positive or repeating empty motivational phrases that echo in the void of your struggle. What you are facing here is a deep existential battle, a conflict between forces that have been acting within you long before you were even consciously aware of them. It is a structural conflict of your psyche, a clash between the unconscious desire for dissolution and self-destruction and the life force that still pulses within you, wanting to live, to create, and to expand. The first, most crucial step is what we are doing right now, becoming aware. As Freud wisely said, making the unconscious conscious is the foundation of true, lasting transformation. You cannot fight against an enemy you cannot see. When you understand that your procrastination is not just laziness, that your addictions are not merely a lack of control, that your self-sabotages are not just bad luck, but are in fact expressions of Thanatos acting through you, you begin to reclaim some of your power. You start to see the pattern, and that which is seen can finally be transformed. But just being aware is not enough. You must face the discomfort you have been avoiding. And here is the secret, the one that few have the courage to confront. Your self-destructive behaviors are, in large part, escape mechanisms. They serve to numb the pains, the traumas, the fears that you do not want to face directly. That is why every attempt at a deep, meaningful change inevitably awakens resistance, because changing means confronting those shadows. It means touching what has been repressed, what has been hidden, what has been buried deep in your unconscious. That is why the path involves integration. It is not about eliminating Thanatos. It is not about destroying the part of you that seeks escape or relief. That would be a futile violence, a self-aggression that only feeds the cycle. The psyche does not work that way. Thanatos is a part of you, but you can learn to integrate it. You can recognize its origins, you can understand its impulses, and you can learn to channel that energy in a more conscious, constructive way. How? Through deep self-knowledge, through small but consistent adjustments in your daily routine. Through therapy, through analysis, through introspective meditation, through practices that help you bring to light what has been hidden. It is a process of soul excavation. And by doing this, you begin to regain true agency. You start to notice when a behavior is a movement of eros, a movement of life, and when it is a disguise of Thanatos. You begin to create a sacred space between impulse and action. You start to be able to choose. Furthermore, it is crucial to rebuild the dopamine circuit. The brain is plastic. The pathways that have been reinforced by years of compulsions can, with effort and consistency, be weakened. But this requires replacing destructive behaviors with genuine sources of pleasure and fulfillment that serve eros, not Thanatos. Building new habits, creating new practices. Finding new, healthier ways of dealing with the tension and suffering of life. Not through escape, but through the courageous, direct confrontation of reality. And it is here, in this sacred space of conscious choice, that true transformation happens. It's when you stop fleeing, when you accept the challenge to face your own pain, your own shadow, that pain that comes with the effort of change. When you commit to truly live, and not just exist, anesthetized and disconnected, it will not be easy, it will not be comfortable, but it is the only way to break the cycle and finally free yourself. And now, in the next part of this journey, we will close this chapter. I will show you why this knowledge is not just theoretical. It is a real, tangible tool that you can use to start today, transforming your life. Because knowing all this only has value if you act. Get ready. It is time to make a commitment to yourself. Now you know. What holds you back from your true potential is not simply a bad habit. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not laziness or disorganization. It's a deep, primal conflict between forces that have existed within you all along. It's the constant, exhausting dance between eros and Thanatos, between the life drive and the death drive. It's a dopaminergic reward system that has been hijacked by a modern world of illusion, reinforcing behaviors that numb you, that distract you, that ultimately destroy you. It's the unconscious, acting as an invisible saboteur, repeating patterns that you often inherited, that were programmed into your psyche without you even being aware of it. And now, you have a choice. You can pretend you didn't hear this. You can close this window, go on with your day, and dive once again into the same cycles of self-sabotage, of fleeting pleasure, followed by profound emptiness. Or you can start to do things differently. You can gradually begin to bring to light the shadows you've been carrying. You can stop fleeing from pain and discomfort. You can begin to build a new, more authentic relationship with yourself. It won't be easy, it won't be quick, but it is possible. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you, the part that still wants to live, to grow, to create, is calling you. Don't ignore that voice. Use this knowledge. Question your daily behaviors. Ask yourself, does what I'm doing right now symbolically serve Eros or Thanatos? Does this build me up, or does it tear me down? Am I seeking a momentary, hollow pleasure, or am I nurturing something that will truly benefit me and, by extension, the world? Share your journey. I want to hear from you. What was the strongest insight you had while watching this video? In which part did you see yourself reflected? Leave your comment down below. Let's create a space for healing and exchange. Because self-knowledge is not a path that is walked alone. Sharing your perceptions can help others who are going through the same struggle. And if this video made sense to you, if it awakened something that was dormant within, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and most importantly, keep watching. You won't want to miss the next video, because in this journey of self-knowledge, every single piece of the puzzle counts. I'll see you there.